past lives matter. Today's episode is called We've Done This Before, and honestly, this one hit different. Because sometimes the people who confuse you the most in this lifetime are the people your soul has history with. Deep history. The kind of history that doesn't just show up as memories, but shows up as patterns, cycles, triggers. That strange feeling of, why does this keep happening with you? In this episode, you're going to meet Ashlin. And before we even got into the reading, she already knew what she wanted clarity on. Her mom, that relationship shift, that emotional whiplash, that moment where someone you thought you knew becomes someone you don't recognize. And what came through in her reading was intense, layered, and honestly, so validating because it wasn't just one lifetime. It was multiple, different roles, different dynamics, same energetic theme. And one message that kept repeating louder than anything else: stop blaming yourself. So, if you've ever felt like you're carrying guilt that isn't yours, if you've ever replayed conversations at night wondering what you've done wrong, if you've ever felt like you're the problem in every situation, this episode might unlock something in you. So, take a breath, get comfortable, and let's go back to where it all started.
Thank you so much for joining me. If you want to just introduce yourself.
My name is Ashlin, and I am currently from Savannah, Tennessee. Unfortunately, I would like to say I'm happy about that, but going from big city, because I used to live in California, to the middle of nowhere is a big change. But we're adjusting and we're here, so grateful to be here. And thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. Do you have any thoughts or beliefs with regards to past lives? Have you had any experience with past lives?
I just remember watching a lot of reincarnation documentaries when I was younger, which kind of got me into okay, maybe that's a thing. Maybe, the reason I sing is because back in my past life, that was something I did, or why I'm into dancing, or because there's a lot of traits that I have that my immediate family doesn't have. So I'm just curious as to where a lot of that has come from.
Is there anything specific or any person in your life or any dynamic or anything specific that you would like to maybe get just clarification on, or what do you hope would kind of come out of this reading?
I do want to see I guess where things went wrong with my mom in my life, because I felt like things were really good, and then out of nowhere it was like a 360, and it was just a completely different version of her that I've never seen before. And maybe that is a part of her and I just never got to know that side. So
I'm going to just kind of give you some information to kind of help you navigate this, because you don't have any experience with this. And I just want you to know, first and foremost, when the reading happens, I'll be completely muted. V, you can either give her your mom's name, or you could tell her you just want to see what comes up. And she has no control over what comes up, but you'll get exactly what you need. If you have any questions for her, feel free to ask. It's your reading, what the dynamic may have been in a past life between your mother and yourself. What does it kind of feel like in this life?
I would say she was more of a best friend to me rather than a mother once it got to that point. It went from the mother-daughter dynamic to you're my friend and you're supposed to just, come along with me through everything. So I guess I would say, yeah, maybe we were best friends in a past life. But other than that, no.
Yeah.
I don't have
What
any.
age in this life did things shift? How old were you?
I want to say 14, 15. It was right when Jazz and I kind of started to get closer, in that little trio group. So yeah, I want to say 14, 15, but 8th grade was really the peak of it. I was just going to say that this is something I've been wanting to do for a long time. So it was just kind of cool that out of nowhere it was like, hey, this is happening today. You're going to do it.
Yep. All things in divine time. Hey, girl.
Hey, I just walked in on some levitation. I'm about this. Awesome.
This is Ashlin. This is V. I'm going to go ahead and mute myself now. You guys can get started.
Awesome. How are you doing, Ashlin? How are you feeling today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, wonderful. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go over past lives. Usually how I do this is most often spirit usually reveals a past life that is really relevant to this life or any current situation that you want me to look into. So basically how this works is I could either A, just pull in whatever pops up, or option B, if there is a specific person or people, not just, it doesn't have to just be limited to one person. So anyone in your life that you would want to or curious about who you share past lives with, we can do it that way too. So just wanted to, check in with you. Which option works best for you?
I guess the one person.
Okay. Is there, so with bringing in a person, is there any, all I need is the first name. I go off the vibration of a first name. What is the first name of the person you want me to look into?
Carlin.
Okay. And in a disclaimer, real quick with past lives, I don't know what I'm going to get into as soon as I get into it. That we have been different genders, so you may have been a male, I'm not sure yet, so it's just going to be very random. There also could have been violence, so just a disclaimer, not really sure what we're going to get into. So just want to share that. If you're cool with it, I'm going to get straight into it. And her name is Carolyn, right? Did I say that right? Carlin. It's Carlin. Yes. Okay, Carlin. All right. So what I'm going to do is Spirit's only showing me specific lifetimes with Carlin. Okay, so the first lifetime I want to talk, there's a few of them popping up. I'm going to start with this one. The first one I want to talk about is you and Carlin are, it looks like brother and sister. She was older, so definitely she was an older brother. And what's interesting is the scenery. It's very, very hot here. I want to say this is in South America. It's very tropical. It's very humid. You're near a jungle. It almost looks like a tribal setting. So we're really old. We're really far back. And I want to say this has to be, it definitely looks like South America. I'm going to assume it could be jungles of the Amazon, not really sure. But anyway, as I'm looking further into this, you both were siblings and there was a lot of competition between both of you. Even though she was your older brother in that lifetime, and you would think, why would a brother need to compete with a younger sister? Well, in that lifetime, Carolyn was extremely protective. So she took it upon herself, even though you guys were, quote, siblings, she almost took the role of a parent role as well, meaning that not only was she protective as a parent would be, but she also had the energy of, how do I say it? It's like she's very, what you see is what you get. Very, very fiery, very direct. No nonsense, no bullshit with her at all. And what's interesting is her energy kind of scared people away. But you were like the only person who like, I understand you. It doesn't get, it doesn't bother me. So you guys had a unique energy because in this lifetime, I do see this image of both of you being cast aside. So basically, I'm going to walk you through this. Her personality was very off-putting. You, as her, quote, younger sister in that life, you're like, don't worry about it. You're fine. You're good. Unfortunately, you had Carlin's back so much that, unfortunately, both of you were ostracized from the tribe. Basically, Carlin was like, would always go head to head with the chief. It's like you just don't do that in those old times. There's like hierarchies. And she was like, fuck it. No, this is wrong. And you also had that same belief. And so both of you were willing to be ostracized to go against the common group or whatever. And so what's interesting is both you and Carlin made a decent, you guys had a decent life. Unfortunately, it was cut very short because, without having the tribal resources, the protections, and so many things, you guys were kind of out in the wilderness, like really roughing it, just you two. And so your personality in that life, you were just as like intense in your own way, but not nearly as intense as Carlin, but you were like a couple notches below intense. So you were still similar to her in that life, but you had a little bit more of patience where she was like, I feel something, I think it, I'm going all in without thinking. And you were like, hold on. I feel what you're saying. I do want to go in, but let's think about it a little bit. So you would have to kind of hold her back a little bit. But you guys got along really well. And I want to say this. Your lives were cut short. I would say maybe 3 months after leaving that tribe. What happened was she ended up she passed away trying to protect you. There's a lot of protection energy over you from her. So she passed away trying to protect your life from an animal. So unfortunately, she got mauled by an animal. I know that sounds violent, but it's just what I'm saying. She unfortunately got mauled by an animal. It's kind of like, it was weird because the imagery was like you guys were high up in a tree. You guys were also, oh, by the way, in that lifetime, Ashlin, you were an extremely great hunter. I mean, there was like, you were able to like pinpoint the sound of the littlest like foot, and you're like, shh, I know what this is. So you were really good at being able to like, that's why I said you had the good, I would say that you had the patience that Carlin needed in that life. You had like the detailed eye. You knew how to hunt really well. That's why you guys were able to be fed, thanks to you. Where Carlin was very much like the aggressor, the protector, and you were like the smarts behind the operation, I guess. Also, what's really, really cool and unique about this whole thing, unfortunately, her passing with it was a wild animal. I'm not sure what it looks like. It's just some wild animal. Now, you, Ashlyn, the way that you ended that life, you didn't live that much longer. After from the grief and everything else, I would say maybe 1 month later, you did pass on of natural causes. It was hard for you to still hunt after that because you're obviously you're sad, depressed, so it makes it a little bit harder to be on your P's and Q's. So unfortunately, you passed from, I think it was more of a starvation or dehydration, and so it's interesting because Spirit is indicating that even in this current lifetime for you, it's always important for you to, I don't know, if you find yourself in situations where you're on, how do I say it? The opposite of a common viewpoint, meaning, a lot of people can say, oh, I believe in this. And then there could be a big amount of people on this planet that believes in one specific thing. And you would be like, I don't know. And so you have that, basically the reason why I say you carry that energy is that because of that tribal lifetime, and both of you and Carlin were both ostracized for being different, for having different thoughts than most humans did. Well, at least in that tribe. So you came back with a little bit of this energy of, you may trigger some people in this lifetime with either your belief systems, you may like think differently than like your family structure. Themes of that are going to be prevalent in this current lifetime of people may look at you and say, oh, well, you're being rebellious. You don't, whatever, oh, girl. But it's like, no, it's not about rebelliousness. You genuinely are here to find your own truth and live it, even if it makes no sense to anyone else, and really just being strong with that. And it's interesting because Carlin, I don't know, she just has this, at least in this current lifetime, Spirit says, still has a protective energy. She had they said she still had that, like, obviously nowhere near like tribe, crazy shit, but she at least still has, like, in this current lifetime as Carlin, there's still a protector. I can't shake the feeling. She still has like that very, like, she can be considered rough around the edges maybe in this lifetime. And that's because it comes from that lifetime, but somehow you get her though. You know what I mean? Where a lot of people may like, I don't know, but it's like, there's something unique about both you and her that you just get it. And a lot of people may misunderstand her and you, both of you. And where you have this understanding of who she is and vice versa. There's an interesting understanding. But just because you understand someone doesn't mean you have to like everything they do. You know what I mean? So there's also that at play as well. But yeah, that was just one lifetime. I wanted to share another one of you and Carlin. So this other lifetime that I am seeing, it looks like oh, wow. Okay, so you, this is really interesting. You were a female, just like you are in this lifetime, and this looks like it's very, very, it's in the mountains, but it's cold. Okay, Spirit says it's Western Canada. So this is in Canada, actually, and it's like Western, like Northwestern Canada. So it's very cold. Very beautiful, though. There's not a lot of humans. You lived a very peaceful life. To be honest with you, it kind of feels like any time where there's not a lot of humans, you'll probably thrive in, even in this current lifetime, honestly. So, I mean, not, humans are cool and all, but your energy definitely works better when you're out in nature or just kind of living far away from everyone. Let's just say that. So in that lifetime, you were very peaceful living in these mountains in Western Canada. You had a very, I want to say that you had a very beautiful life because you got to do what you loved. Your profession in that life, you were a nurse. You brought in babies specifically. So you were a baby person. So you genuinely loved what you did. However, where does Carlin come into this? There is a I'm sorry, but there is. And so where it comes from is that, unfortunately, while you were living it up, you were one of the best. I don't even have kids, so I don't even know, the baby person. You were the best baby deliverer in the land. You were great. A lot of people came to you. You almost had you were very in the middle of nowhere. So you almost had the energy of like a doula. You ever heard of a doula? You kind of had that energy because people, it was like a lot of home births, a lot of stuff like that. But you technically studied as a nurse. So you had the credentials. So anyway, where Carlin comes in is this. Unfortunately, when you had a great track record until you met Carlin. When you met Carlin, she was a random stranger in that lifetime to you, quote unquote random. And so she came to deliver a baby and everything was fine. The baby, you delivered it fine. And then about an hour later, the baby passed away. This is where the drama set in that lifetime. You, Ashlin, obviously imagine having like the most best track record ever as a career, and it's something you're passionate about. And the first time something ever happened out of 10, 15 years happened to be with Carlin. What are the odds? And after losing her baby, obviously she didn't completely blame you because there was other factors. You unfortunately blamed yourself so strongly that you quit your entire business. You quit everything. And Carlin, unfortunately, even though she didn't blame you in the beginning, later on, after you shut down your business, she kind of did blame you. And that it was like more salt to the wound. Carlin had a hard time taking responsibility that there were other factors at play, with her health at that time. And she just, I don't know, it was really hard for her. And just like it was for you, understandably so. And so in that lifetime, after shutting down your business and just saying, no, I don't want to do this anymore because a baby died on my watch. I can't do this. You just want to allow yourself to forgive yourself for that. And even though it wasn't your fault, it turns out it was health complications from the baby. It had nothing to do with your delivery method, but you didn't know that. No one knew that at that time. But unfortunately in that life, I just want to say this, you were married. You had 3 kids of your own. Your husband in that life was extremely, he did a lot of, spirit shows me a lot of trees and hands. Like he did a lot of logging, like something with something with construction, trees, definitely using a lot of his hands, but definitely with logging, like something with trees and cutting them down. So you guys, like I said, it was very mountaineer kind of life. But after you quit your business, you kind of lost motivation for so many things. It was really sad, but at the same time, you did find happiness in that life. You and Carlin had a brief interaction in that life. Unfortunately, it was a brief interaction that catapulted a deep soul lesson for you, which birthed this kind of deep fear of failure. Unfortunately, it was a very deep rooted fear of failure or fear of making a mistake. And you purposely in that life didn't put yourself in positions anymore in the public eye to fail again. And that was a deep soul lesson. So basically, when I say a soul lesson, what that means is that in each one of our lifetimes, we come in there to learn, quite a few soul lessons or things we want to learn, such as like how to be more confident or how to do this. We want to come and learn certain things to, make sure we're evolving as a soul. And in that lifetime, while, we have free will. So free will means you can make any decision you want. No one's going to put a gun to your head to make a decision. But your decision, you kind of shut yourself down, which is understandable. You're feeling a lot of pain. But in that life, the technical soul lesson was to not allow the fear of making a mistake or feel a failure to paralyze you and keep you frozen. So karmically speaking, now when I say karma, it doesn't mean you did something wrong. It just means leftover lessons that still need to be learned. It's nothing more, nothing less than that. A lot of people make it so scary. It's really not that serious. Karma really isn't. So anyway, in this lifetime, a little bit, the reason why I bring all this up is that if you ever found yourself struggling with the fear of making a mistake or failure and kind of being slow when it comes to wanting to like put yourself out there or start something new in this, and as you as Ashlin, it's not random. It does come directly from that past life of being so successful and then just a nosedive due to public opinion. Well, from her running, well, unfortunately, Carlin really ran her mouth. So, you know, she ran her freaking mouth in that life. And so because of that, the slander and everything else, you know, you quit. And so the goal here in this current lifetime as Ashlin is to be able to, whenever you feel a spark of wanting to put yourself out there or to anything new you want to try in this life, even something scary or something risky, it's to still follow through with it despite the noise of other people, despite the noise of your own fears. And it's a huge component of this current lifetime. But other than, you know, the job stuff, like I said, you had a beautiful life, a beautiful little cottage in the mountains. I mean, it was a very chill life. Outside of that, your husband was very good to you. So I got to say, most of that life outside of your professional life, the rest of your personal life and home life, great. But there is one kicker, okay? And I'm going to say this is about this life as well and what you did in last life that kind of connects in this life. Spirit's advice is don't get too cozy and use your cozy personal life as a way to just keep it chill and that you don't overly go after the things you want in this life. Because sometimes if you know, Spirit says if you get too comfortable and too cozy, you start to procrastinate, you start to push things off. You're like, I'll get to it. I'm finally in a good place. I don't have to worry. So their message to you is to make sure that you can be comfortable and cozy in your life, and while simultaneously taking small little steps to do what you really want to do and take care of in this life. They just said they said the coziness may keep you procrastinating or something about procrastination in this current lifetime. And it comes from the Canadian life, if that makes sense. So, okay, just want to check in with you. I know I just sprang. I'm going to keep going, but I just want to check with you, Ashlyn. How you feeling? How you doing? I know I sprang a lot on you so quickly.
I'm honestly speechless at how accurate everything had. Like, I'm now understanding certain things that I deal with in my life that I bring onto myself and why I do that and where that's coming from and what I may need to do to fix those things if I don't like them and if I don't like where it's taking me. So
Yes, I love that. That's why I just want to do a little reflection because because I know, even though I'm just saying it so quickly, but these past lives, and like you were saying, it is a deep reflection onto all these things. Like, and that's why Spirit was trying to connect some of the dots for this current life. Like, see, girl, you know, and there's and this is just the beginning. There's still more. So we are just getting started, Ashlyn. So I'm going to get into even more with you. Okay. So this other lifetime question before I go, I still see another one with Carlin. Is there anyone else outside of her? Because I'm going to go into another one. There's another one I'm going to do with her. Or do you want me to still continue? Because I think there's two more after this one. Spirit says there's like you guys spent maybe 4 to 5 lifetimes together. So I can do them all. Or if you want to switch it up, I can do that.
I guess continue. You're on a roll. So.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, because she plays an interesting role in your life. Seriously, I don't know who she is to you. You don't have to tell me, but there's an interesting role she's played in past lives and including in this one. You guys are very much connected for sure.
Yes.
Okay, so when it comes to this next lifetime I'm seeing with Carlin, I do see. Oh wow, this is so cool. Okay, both of you guys were men. And you, Ashlyn, you did they showed me this image. This actually would have been in the 1900s because they show me you're working on cars. So it's like, you know, those like 1930s, like 40s looking cars. It's like you were a mechanic or something along those lines. It's definitely with cars. And it's like the old 30s, like, you know, the Great Gatsby, kind of like those old looking cars. That's kind of what it looks like. But yeah, you were a mechanic car dude in that lifetime. Now, what's interesting is Carlin was also, she worked with you. So she would be considered a co-worker, but she was not just a co-worker. You guys end up being best friends. So this was like a BFF thing now. And there was nothing you wouldn't do together. I mean, you guys were two peas in a pod, and both of you had this obsession with cars. And think about it, like, especially at that time frame, it was like machinery, cars, so new, woo! So both of you had this like cool obsession with it. Carlin specifically, I would say that she had a little bit, in that lifetime, she played more of a passive role. You were way more domineering, where she was more of like, sure, whatever you say, I'll go along with it, like whatever. And you were more like, okay, we're doing this, this, and this, and this. You were like, you planned things in advance. You like, you know, you made sure everything was like according to plan. You were very detail oriented. So you were on it. Ashlin, you were so on it as a mechanic that both you and Carlin ended up opening your own shop. And this actually, the state that I'm seeing, it looks like this is the Midwest. I want to say it's near Chicago. I saw the word Chicago. So this is around that time frame, and like around in Illinois kind of area, and or in the near Chicago area, and around the 30s, maybe 40s, possibly. Again, I'm not I said geologist, I mean geography person, but whatever. It's around that time frame. Now, anyway, both of you ended up going into business together as car, you know, mechanics kind of thing, and it was a successful business. It was great. Weird now thinking about it. Interesting how you had a business in another lifetime. Seems like business seems to follow you, Ashlyn, now thinking about it. Interesting. But anyway, sorry, that's my own side comment on it. So I see this image of the business was going well. The unfortunate part is Carlin was a people pleaser in that life. Remember, I was saying she had very passive energy. So she would kind of, you know how they have those hookups, like the family friend hookups, like, oh, you can pay less because you're my family, you're my friend. And you were way more cutthroat, Ashlyn. You're like, it's a business. We don't do no family friend discounts. And so you, later on in those years of you and Carlin owning this business together, you guys just, when it came to like, she was way more lenient about money. You were like, no, we're not making money because you're giving all this stuff away for free. So there's a lot of clashes towards, you know, being business owners together. I would say that you, Ashlyn, and this is, I hate to say it, but it is what it is. You were a player in that life. So you used your shop to have other women come in. You were married. So there was a lot going on. So as much as Carlin had something on you and you had something on her, basically you were pissed at her for giving discounts to people, but she also knew that you had your little women, you would have your little rendezvous in the shop, and she knew it. So she knew if you ever tried to fire her, because you tried to threaten to fire her, but she's like, oh, okay, I can just tell your wife about what you've been doing. So it was very petty. You guys started to be very tit for tat. So then it became that business. Unfortunately, what started out being just for money ended up being a thing that both you guys used to escape each other's personal lives. So the money went over the years. It just went down. You were getting loan after loan. And all of this was just to get out your vices. Like, you were unhappy with your marriage, but you didn't want... Ashlyn, in that life, you were very image focused. So you did not want to get a divorce. And also you guys were very strict religious. I'm probably Catholics, I would assume. It was very strict religious where you didn't want to get a divorce either. So it's like you were stuck between a rock and a hard place. You're like, fuck it, I'm going to just cheat at my shop. And I don't even care if I make money at this point. I'm just that unhappy. And you were just taking out loan after loan after loan. This did end up getting to a climax. You and Carlin did end up, they show me once again, like, fist fighting, literally, like fighting, like not even just verbal at this point, like physical. You guys did go separate ways. Ashlyn, you did try to fraudulently get insurance policies all off of your business. I know it's like you were really on another level. So, and you ended up getting some of free money due to your fraudulent ways. And that kept you afloat while you shut down. And in that lifetime, you and Carlin went separate ways. You still ended up being a dog. Unfortunately, with or without a business, you were still a cheater in that life. I'm sorry to say it. But it is what it is. You had a lot of fun, but you know, it came with consequences. Your wife did end up finding out in that life. It was a big deal. You lost everything. However, even with losing everything, you ended up finding out. And this is what spirit, and this is there's another message with this one. I know you're going to think, oh my God, I lost everything. I lost my wife, my kids. Oh, you ended up having a way happier life in a very small apartment with barely anything to your name than you did as a family person. And that was the most interesting. And I believe, and this is what Spirit's saying, is that the reason why you didn't realize you would be more happier as a single man and you're in a small little studio, basically the simplistic life. You thought you were doing all the right things that your parents taught you in that life, like you got to get married, you got to do this, take care of this. So it's not because you genuinely wanted to, it's just you just thought this is just how the progression of natural life. You get married, you have kids, you do make money. You were doing all the right things. It wasn't until you lost everything that you realized, wow, I live better simply. Even without all the money I used to have, it's better for me to live in a very simplistic, minimalistic kind of way, even if it's just my own little space. Having your own little space was so important to you. So it turns out after losing everything, you learn that you're better off that way. Carlin, unfortunately, because she had a lot of people pleasing energy in that life, it just went from one bad relationship to the next, to the next, to the next. She was, it was like, she would overpromise things, oversell, overpromise. Oh, don't worry, we're going to do all this. We're going to, and she would never be able to deliver. And everyone could read through all that. Even you, her other spouses throughout the years. That's basically what ended up happening to Carlin, was one quick relationship after another, after another. She would keep getting into all these relationships because she would always overpromise. She really, they say lead with your heart on your sleeve and stuff. That's how she lived her life. And you kind of lived your life, Ashlin, with like your head, like literally your head on your sleeve. And she was more the heart-based person. You were way more of like, no, I'm going to be smart. And you, Ashlyn, how you ended your life, you didn't get remarried. You ended up just having like a live-in girlfriend. And you said you don't want to do anything on paper anymore. So you kind of lived the rest of your life, like, I guess, and they show me 1960s. So by the 60s, I think that's when you might have passed, or possibly early 70s. So this was actually not, 1970 could be considered long ago, but I don't consider that long ago. But yeah, so that was basically the last era you were in, I believe, before coming here, actually. So any connection to 1960s, possibly early 70s, 30s, 40s, all that old, but you were really thriving. Your era was really that, like, end of the early 30s, 40s, that you were really popping around that time, in early 50s, but then it just kind of died off and just got old, basically. But yeah, so that was a really interesting one. And Spirit wants to, they talk about the soul lesson of that one. And what's interesting is they are saying that in that lifetime, a huge soul lesson of yours, and it comes back to, they show me the word authenticity. That and technically, if you think about it, Ashlyn, we never really know what we really want until we go through certain experiences, honestly. And what the message here for you is, don't beat yourself up for going through an experience. And so what? It turned out badly. At least now you have the knowledge of, okay, based on this working out or not working out, now I know. And what they said, instead of blaming yourself for every time it blows up, they said, try a different perspective, and a different perspective of seeing it in a lighter way of like, okay, now I know. And now I know, based on this experience, who I am and what I'm about, and what I'm not about. And so Spirit, they're kind of like, try to see bad outcomes, quote unquote, bad outcomes, or if something just blows up in your face unexpectedly, try not to overly blame yourself. See it as more of a trial and error thing. They said it's better to live life in that way, instead of constantly feeling like, oh, what's wrong with me? Why do I keep doing this? And so they're just saying it's nothing more, nothing less. Just trial and error, girl. Just trial and error. And not only that, but they're also mentioning on a deeper soul level is that they said unconventionality. I saw the word unconventionality. In that past lifetime, you were destined to live something unconventional, but you chose a traditional marriage, kids pathway, and it ended up cheating. Not, you felt like shit. You did feel the guilt, but you didn't feel guilt because you knew that this was really the real you. Not being a, quote, dog, what people would say dog, but being a free person, unconventional lifestyle. And so I say this to say that even right here and right now, you may be drawn to unconventional ways of living. It goes back to what I was saying before about the tribal life. Things that most groups of people would say, oh no, I'm not thinking that or living that way. You know, what the heck? I don't understand. You really embody the energy of like being completely different and unique. And I mean this in the most sincere and literal way. Like you're literally unique. And it's so important to play that up in this life instead of like dismissing it and keeping it under wraps and only certain people can see my cool, unique quirks. They said, no, let the world see it. Like the world is meant to see it in this current lifetime as Ashlin, because you notice how the patterns of those other lifetimes, Ashlin, where you try to do it the normal, regular way and you still end up unhappy anyway. You might as well do it your own way then, the way that you really want to do it, if that makes any sense. Also with Carlin, you know, they said that the dynamic of you and Carlin, where sometimes you guys can be so freaking like in sync or so, what's the word, like both of you are so there's something so similar about you but then so different at the same time. Like it's like you guys have so much buzzing in common, but then there's like an extreme difference ironically at the same time, which can cause like we're either really good or it's like something randomly hits you like, whoa, what the heck? I thought, you know, so there's an interesting dynamic between both of you that follows you from lifetime to lifetime. And speaking of, I'm going to go into another one with Carlin. There's one more. There might be another one. Yes, maybe two. Now I'm going to go with this one. Okay. So with this lifetime, first thing I see is it's so many banana trees. Wow. There's so many bananas everywhere. Very weird, but there's tons of banana trees. A lot of bananas. Bananas are everywhere. You're growing these. Okay, so you were a man. I am seeing masculine. I see you as a guy with a straw hat on. You were a farmer, but it's like a banana trees, and it's so tropical where this is at. It feels like an island. It's definitely an island, and yes, you had a definite obsession with these bananas for sure. You prided yourself on being like a banana farmer, or I don't even know if that's even a term. Banana, it has to be. I don't know. So banana farmer, whatever. So there is all this bananas everywhere. And what's interesting is Carlin in that life was your wife. So now it's an interesting dynamic. So she went from sister to so now she's a wife. So, and you were the man, she was Carlin, she was a wife. And what's interesting in that lifetime is, and again, this is an island. You guys were dirt poor. You guys did the best you could. Basically, the fruits that you guys would make, you guys would sell it, but you wouldn't make that much money, but you did the best you guys could. Ashlin, you had a very deep obsession with the water, which would make sense because you're on an island. But you would spend majority of your day there. Outside of farming, you would just be swimming and floating. Water was so healing for you in that lifetime. It really was. Carmen, however, she had a fear of the water. She could not swim. Very, very specific. But she just couldn't swim. She didn't want. She was always like, she gets fearful. She had a very fearful energy. Like, oh no, this scares me. Like, you know, some people are like, I don't want to do this. I'm scared. Oh no, this scares me too. She had that kind of energy of like, oh no, it gives me those heebie-jeebies. I'm not touching it, because there was always so many like crazy, you know, like what if you get hit by stingray? And you had more of a fearless energy of like, who cares if I get hit by stingray? I'll live. I'll find plant medicine for it. It's not a big deal. So you guys had the opposite personalities of her being more fearful and like, watch your back. And you're like, oh, you're over the top. You're worrying too much. So Carlin in that life was very dramatic and you were very level-headed. Now, what's interesting is as your wife, romantically speaking, I would say this, she had a lot of depression in that life. I think she was born into it. Like this wasn't like an event that caused it. You know, some people are just, it just can be genetic sometimes. And so she had a lot of depression. So a lot of your life, like it was very devoted to making her feel like, you know, you're helping her. And especially in those old days, it's not like a lot of people knew like mental health and what those, especially on a random island in the middle of nowhere. Like no one knows all these terminologies, right? And so you had to do the best you could to take care of the kids. Oh, by the way, both you and her had 5 children. So imagine 5 kids on a random island, 3 boys, 2 girls. And so what was interesting is you put it on yourself to take care of all these kids, all because you didn't want to stress her out. There was like a feeling of not wanting to overstress her, as because you were worried that she'd get, because in that lifetime, the reason why I said depressed, the spirit shows me a zipper on her mouth. What this vision implies means mute. She'll go mute for months. That's how scary it was. And so for you, you would be like, oh my gosh, is she going to go mute? Is she going to go quiet? I don't know. It would, like, it kept you on edge. And so you would do your best to, I almost felt like you overly compensated because, you know, which makes sense. You were so afraid of, quote, losing your wife to like her just going quiet for months and not knowing what to do, not knowing how to get her out of that. And so you would put so much pressure on yourself, Ashlin, just to make sure that she's not stressed out so she doesn't like go into a depressive episode. So you took care of the kids, the cooking, the cleaning, like you did a lot of the extra work. Did she help? Of course she did. When she was, you know, feeling good, you know, not going through an episode, absolutely she was fine and she could help out with the kids and stuff. But and Carmen in that life held a lot of guilt. She did feel really bad that you had to take care of most of the things because, you know, in those old times, it's like the woman should be doing this. So it was really hard for her to not be in her, quote, woman role. It was really hard for her to allow you to do all these things for her. And what I get as an overall feeling as a soul lesson, which was spiritual mode responsibility. You really took on this extra responsibility. You were really responsible in that life, and you were a really good person, good heart. No cheating, no nothing, just a regular, like trying to, you know, do the best you can, being there for her. And it was a decent life, but I would say mentally and emotionally over the years, Spirit says it took a really bad toll on your own physical health. Your immune system was compromised by trying to mentally and emotionally keep things afloat and financially. That literally wore down, and I mean literally wore down your body to the point where you were getting headaches. It started out with head. By the way, Spirit, it's headaches. You had a lot of bad migraines in that life, a lot of headaches. And then it went into back pains. And then it went from back pain to actually getting like a stomach ulcer, something with the ulcer, and then also heart palpitation, something dealing with the heart as well. So literally, and I mean literally, your own stress was eating you alive. And so as the years unfolded, unfortunately, what I get, and this is as a really strong message, is that I want to say you ended up passing away, Ashlin, around age 61 in that life. Carlin in that life outlived you. And so your biggest fear, even on your deathbed, was like, oh my God, she's going to have to take care of these kids and everything by herself. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. So you're still dying with the worry of how she's going to be okay. And that's how you literally died in that life. And even though in hindsight, obviously, you know, I mean, we're decades here, so obviously she was fine, the kids were good, but the getting out of this lifetime and going into the soul lessons, why this even had to have happened, why even go through all this together, you know? And what I feel is this, it feels like you and her had to go through that as a way, and this is what's, especially for you, Ashlyn, I mean, obviously Carlin's not here, so it's really about you. So Ashlyn, for you specifically, it's not that you did anything wrong technically you did everything right. You were the helpful husband, you did everything you could, but the problem was you were trying to solve something so completely outside of your control. And that it was you overly putting in so much work and effort to solve something that was so random and outside of your control that it drove your whole body to shut down. So basically what the moral of the whole past life, the whole reasoning was for you to, and this is what Spirit, the soul lesson was, do what you can while you can, but using your precious life force energy to worry about the what ifs, that's what caused you to really go downhill. It was one thing that, you know, it was one thing to help her out, but it was, and to take care of the kids and pick up her slack. But it was another thing that even when she was okay and clear-minded, you still would carry the fear, which is just like trauma, it's like traumatic. Like, I don't know what's going to happen, so you were just on edge a lot in that life. And so the importance is you can't spend your life waiting around if someone's going to be upset. Is someone going to explode? Is something going to happen? Oh my gosh, do I have to be on alert? That's no way to live. I'm not saying you're living like that right now, but in that lifetime, at least you were. But there is a but. it's still important even in this current lifetime. And I'm not just saying for Carlin, like, I don't know your relation to her in this lifetime, but whether it's her or, and I mean literally anybody in this life, they said it is not your job to measure anyone's emotional status and to be responsible 100% for where they're emotionally at. And it's not your job to take care of their emotions. It is your job to be a supporter, but it's not your job to overly go out your way and anticipate, oh my God, is it me? Are you okay? Is it I do something? It's too much for any soul on this planet. That's why, and that's why it goes back. They show me the word responsibility. So your responsibility in this lifetime is to yourself, and any extra energy you have, you give it to others. But it's not the opposite where you give all of your free energy to everyone and then you get the short end of the stick. And now you feel you have no energy for yourself. Now you're feeling anxious and depressed. You know what I mean? You took away someone else's anxiety and depression. Now you feel it. Now you're like, great, I have nothing for me for being there for everyone else. And so that is a huge lesson in this current lifetime as well. So I did want to share that. Spirit's like, you ain't getting away with that one, Ashley. They had to say this message real quick. Had to share it with you because it's extremely important that you make sure that you have boundaries in your energy, that it's not being over-riddled with other people's what's going on in their world and them throwing it on you and thinking like you have to do something with it. You don't have to do nothing with it except be there and support, but there's nothing you need to go out your way for, basically. Not saying like in a bitchy way, it's like basically I think the message here is like when you have the energy, obviously give, and when you don't, keep it for you and don't feel any kind of weirdness because you have to keep to yourself for a little bit, because that also pops through as well. Okay, I'm going to go to, I know we got like a couple more minutes. I'm going to go to another life real quick. We are on a boat. So already we're on the water. So we're on a boat. Ashlin, you were a very rich, well-to-do woman, and you were it was on a cruise. It's like a cruise, and it looks like we're in Europe. And it's like a boat, and it's near Italy. We're near Italy. We're off the waters of Italy. And you were you were born into a very wealthy family, Ashlin. And Carlin, she was just a worker on the boat. I'm sure you see where this is headed. So you were female, Carlin was a man. So she was just a normal worker. You had your whole entire by the way, let me just say this real quick. Your family was from England in that life, and your family made a lot of money with trains, something with trains, railroads. It's like building railroads. Like, how like Europe is known for I've never been to Europe, so I don't even know, but I know they had lot of trains and all that stuff. But England specifically, your family or a part of it was responsible for building a lot of the different trains that run through England, at least. So anyway, so you guys had a decent amount of money. And so you were traveling on this big cruise near Italy, and you met Carlin because she was just a worker, just a regular servant on the boat. Here's your food, ma'am, kind of thing. And it was an instant magnetic attraction. Think about it. You were a female, she was a male in that life. She was everything you've never dealt with before. Very direct to your face. Imagine, you lived a whole life of people kissing your ass. So imagine having someone just seeing you as an equal and not kissing your ass completely. So that was different. You're like, I'm intrigued. Okay, go on. Let's do this. And so you had that kind of energy in that life. And so even though you came from your very uppity background, you had a very fun personality. Oh, by the way, Ashlin, you had a vice for gambling. You love to gamble. So there was the reason why I say that is that there was a lot of gambling happening on that cruise as well. And so you loved to gamble. And so you loved to gamble, drink. You did everything in excess. You didn't talk about minimalistic. No, you did maximalistic. Maximum. You maxed life out. Like there was no minimize, no keeping it chill. It was very over the top elegance. And you had a really big obsession with diamonds. Like you had so many different collections, specifically canary diamonds, the yellow ones. It was yellow diamonds. You loved the color yellow in that life. Very specific, but you did. So I saw this image of a yellow diamond necklace, diamond yellow things. So a lot of yellow stones, yellow diamond stuff. Anyway, you also, by the way, you were a really great cook. Even though you had all your servants and stuff, you enjoyed the art of cooking. And so you weren't as uppity as one would seem. You really had a really cool personality in that life. And that's what made you connect with Carlin, the quote worker on the ship. You guys hit it off right away. I'm talking about talking hours in the night, not even like romantic sexual stuff, just plain old talking, like just having drinks and talking at a bar all night. It was both of you felt equally safe in each other's energy. It was especially when it came to communication, both of you had one thing in common, which was transparent, direct communication. It was really a breath of fresh air for both of you, to communication wise. Now here's where it gets kind of iffy. You, Ashlyn, unfortunately, Carlin was also kind of parading around the boat with other women. And you were a very jealous person because think about it, even though you had a laid back personality for a rich person, you also had a very big entitlement energy of like, oh, how dare you? I opened up, kind of thing. So you had that kind of like, I open up to you. We had long, deep conversations. I can't believe this. And so because you felt betrayed by Carlin, you had a very nasty jealous streak, by the way. It was very nasty. You were very vindictive. And so you would go around the boat spreading rumors about Carlin. You try to get her fired, say that she snuck into your room and stole things. So you were trying to, make up a whole ruse as a way to get her back for messing around with the other women. And so it was kind of interesting because you were possessive so quickly, especially just meeting someone, but you were extremely possessive like that because for you, it was hard for you to open up because you were so used to like just people wanting to use you. And the fact that Carlin didn't ask you for a dime, just want to just to talk. So that actually hooked you into her because you're like, oh, you don't want anything from me. You just want to talk. And so it like ironically made you more wanting to possess Carlin. And Carlin was not to be possessed at all in that life. And that was the disconnect. So unfortunately, while basically with all this kind of running around with women, with Carlin running around with women, what I psychically see is I saw the word sabotage. You try to sabotage all these connections with Carlin running around with these women. You try to sabotage it by saying, oh, did you know that this, blah, blah, blah. You were very much a gossip spreader, and that, definitely for sure. You were always, oh, this is this and this, and it was a 2-week long excursion on that cruise. That's why it was a lot, and this all happened in the span of 2 weeks. Once Carlin got a hold of all what was going on, of course, Carlin was upset, said, "Don't ever talk to me again. Went your separate ways." You still had this obsessive energy though. So in that life, Ashlyn, hate to say it, but it is what it is. You just, I guess you would kind of be like a femme fatale, or what we would call it. You tried to poison Carlin. It did not work, but you tried it, but it didn't work. But you tried it. And when that didn't work, you just and this is where it gets to an overall message. Once the freaking ship finally docked in Italy, you would try to follow, the workers, and like imagine like where the workers hang out at, and you try to follow them to try to stalk. Basically, I'm sorry to say it, but you were just a glorified stalker at that point. And yeah. And so unfortunately, nothing worked out with you or Carlin. After that whole thing, you did eventually let it go. You did a lot of gambling, and that's why I can't shake the feeling. It's there was a lot of gambling and what is it called? It's in Italy. That's why they show me. It's like where you dock the water and there's like a casino. I don't, and again, I've never been to Italy, but there's like a big casino by the water in Italy where this boat docked. And that's where you did a lot of your gambling. And so you met someone else. That's the thing in that life. And I do want to say that, even though the story with Carlin was kind of over with from that boat interaction, she really invoked a lot of possessiveness within you, but everyone else you were flirting with, you weren't as possessive. Carlin was the only one. And I think it was the only reason was because she didn't need anything from you. That's weirdly what kind of put your hooks into her, was like, oh, you don't need anything. Now I really want you. Versus everyone else, you kind of felt like, and even with you, your life was still a lot of fun. You had, you end up getting married, you end up having kids, like you were able to live a normal life. But there was always this wild, like, inner free spirit that was always wanting to come out, even though you led a very normal life. You were in your early, you were like in your mid 20s when that happened. So as you got older, obviously you settled down, had kids, but you still very much felt like you deserved Carlin. Like you still had that, like, we need to be together, even years after the fact. It was a very interesting obsession. I want to real quick talk about why the obsession energy, why she brought that out outside of her being different. On a soul level, what Spirit's saying is that you were very impressed with her ability to be a quote poor person, basically the mentality that you had in that life. So I'm using the mentality of you as that English person. You were enamored with, how can a poor person not need anything, not need any money? I don't get it. How do they just think this is good enough? Just be hanging out and talking, and that's okay. And you were so enamored with that aspect that it really perplexed you, because imagine your whole life you were born rich, so you never got to be around a lot of people, let alone poor people at that time. So that was really shocking for you, to the point where you were inspired. That's why you wanted to be around her more. To be honest, you really just wanted more of that energy of like, I want to be more like that, where I don't want to feel like I need to keep gambling and keep accessing more. I want to learn how to live like Carlin lives and just be okay with just the bare minimum and somehow be happy with that. I want to learn how to do that because it's so different from my reality. And so you were yearning for that experience, but instead of cultivating it yourself, you were using her as a way, as a gateway to say like, well, I'm going to lean on your energy to help me with this, instead of, you had your whole life to figure out how to do that, but you were really overly dependent on that one person, Carlin, to do that for you, to help you, show you the way. When in reality, Spirit's like, technically you had your whole life to figure out how to live happy with or without money. They said there's so many ways you could have done it, but you really pinpointed her because it was that shocking. Imagine being that rich. It was that shocking to your spirit. Like it was that shocking. But on a deeper level, in that lifetime, she did trigger that obsessiveness, like that really possessiveness. And what they're saying is that because, once again, you were so used to getting everything you want. Imagine the one person who doesn't give you what you want. It is going to create some kind of obsession, right? And so that was the major thing of like, oh, how dare you not need me, let alone my stuff. And you don't even like, this just makes no sense. Now I have to be on you. And that's what it was. It was like a chasing kind of energy. And the reason why Spirit brings this up is that they said it works best in that lifetime, and just in a general sense, even you as Ashlin, even here in the now, it's extremely important for you to be able to maintain a certain level of, how do I say it? They show they show me a balance beam, which means like a certain level of balance of knowing, like they said, never allowing anything outside of you to ever get you in a space where you feel like you're not enough. I don't care if it's a person or a situation or experience. Never allow anything outside of yourself to ever make you question if you're good enough. That was the moral of that whole entire lifetime, was that you felt jealous, you felt all these nasty, dark feelings you never felt before, and you never once thought in that life, what is it about this person that's bringing this out of me? Why am I doing this to myself? Because obviously feeling those feelings aren't happy, positive feelings, obviously. And so, but what Spirit's saying is that it's not about, how that person was able to invoke or how anyone invokes any feelings out of you. It's more so about what can you do to minimize the impact of anyone outside of yourself, to impact how you view yourself, and to not allow anyone to take you to a lower level where you end up acting on a lower impulses or lower, things like that. Because, and they show me the word discipline, self-control, that you do have this ability to tap into more of a disciplined part of yourself, where you're able to see things from multiple angles, where it's like, wait a minute, is it really beneficial for me to overly react in this kind of way? How's this going to benefit me in a positive way? And I don't know, it was just something that Spirit just wanted to share in regards to that life.
You have any questions, Ashley?
Any questions? Yeah, any questions?
You're right.
I mean, I'm okay, but like, am I okay? Like,
yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
It all makes so much sense now. That's how I feel about it all. Like, everything just kind of has come together for me. I'm not crazy, it's just my past life.
We're gonna just create a whole shirt of that. Trina, copyright that.
Literally that's going on the merch shop.
Exactly. I love that. It's a really good one. Seriously, I'm not
God.
crazy. It's just my past lives, guys. Seriously, I can see the whole
swear.
thing. I love that. Ashlyn, I love that. It's so true. God, I mean, you have no idea. I'm gonna use that later on tonight too. I'm gonna talk about it. Like, it's not me. I'm not fucking nuts. It's just like that's life. So I'm totally but it's true though. But see the thing, Ashlyn, it really helps explain the connections of things. You know, it really helps you to see like, oh, now there's a reason why I like you and I don't. You know, it really helps reel it in. And it helps you so that you're able to like make even more positive choices for yourself, whether it's to protect yourself or to even have even a better relationship or whatever. It just helps you so that it minimizes all of that like harsh blame you put on yourself every time things don't work out. You know what I mean? Or something happens. Like you don't have to like just feel like everything's just all on you all the time or like it's your fault. Like I know that sounds weird, but I don't know, Spirit just says you put a lot of things like it's your fault and nothing's your fault. It's okay. You know, you're good. You're definitely fine. You're doing just fine. But yeah, I just wanted to I know it was a lot of information, but it was so good connecting to your soul today, Ashley. It was so great.
Thank you so much. That was, I don't even have words for it. I just, I feel good. And thank you for all of that.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. It was so great to be here with both of you. Thank you, Trina. Thank you, Ashlyn. And I will see you later, Trina.
Thank you, V. Until next time.
Until next time. Bye, guys.
All right, my dear. So is there any like immediate feedback? I mean, I know it's a lot. You've said a lot, but any initial responses to everything?
I find it so crazy that the biggest thing was like quit blaming yourself. Because I feel like there's never a night where I don't go to bed thinking about at least one thing I did wrong that day or one thing that I could have changed or done differently or, you know, and I feel like every day, all day, like I contemplate like just things and situations that have happened in my life, whether out of my control or in my control, it just somehow is always my fault. So to hear that the biggest thing was like, no, it's not. That's just life. And that's just how things affect each other, like cause and effect. It just happens the way it happens. So that was huge for me. I found it strange that in almost every past life with my mom, she wasn't really like a family figure. Like she was either romantic or a best friend, which blew my mind when she said that because I was like, I was already thinking that, girl, we're on the same page.
You called it.
Yeah,
Yep.
but there were definitely a lot of things that she said, like how we always just clashed in some way or another. Like we were so good until we weren't. And that's like basically how it always was. Like we were so good having a great time and then something would happen where we both had different opinions on it or a different outlook and then it would go. And her being a people pleaser is so true to this day, which is what has put us in some of the situations we've been in. It's just because she has a hard time saying no to people or seeming a certain way. And I think that's carried over into me too, but it's something I try not to do because of her. I just, that was so much. Apparently, I'm just a dog as well.
Dude, when she said that you like went femme fatale, I want to throw up my muscles so quick. Like, yeah, fuck that. That's our dude. Like, oh shit.
Oh my god.
But that was just in the one life, though. You were just a hoe that one time.
That one time, you know,
like,
all you need is one time. One little moment. Get it out of your system. God. Yeah, that's all I gotta say. My brain hurts. My head hurts.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Love you.
All right, so that was Ashlyn's reading, and I'm not even going to pretend that one was light, because what came through wasn't just a story. It was a soul pattern being exposed in real time. And what I loved most about this session is that it reminded me of something I think we all forget sometimes. Your triggers are not random. Your pain is not random. And the people who bring the most emotional confusion into your life usually aren't just here by accident. They're here because there's unfinished energy, unfinished lessons, unfinished healing. But what stood out for me the most, and what I hope you take from this episode, is that the message that came through again and again is that you don't have to keep blaming yourself. Some things are just life. Some things are karma playing out. Some things are soul contracts unfolding. And sometimes the lesson isn't to fix it. It's to stop carrying it, to stop personalizing everything, to stop turning every outcome into proof that something is wrong with you. Because nothing is wrong with you. You're just remembering. If you're listening to this and something in your body feels activated, emotional, heavy, or even relieved, I want you to give yourself space. Let this land. Let your spirit process. Because past life work doesn't just inform the mind, it unlocks the nervous system and releases the things that you didn't even realize you were holding. If you want to support the Past Lives Matter series, the best thing you can do is share this episode with someone who may need to hear it. Because I promise you, somebody out there is living inside of a cycle right now, and they don't even realize they've done this before. If you want to apply to be on the series, check the description. I'll put the link in there. If you'd like to sponsor an episode, the link is in the description. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.